By dawn, at the Cenote Sagrado of Chichén Itzá, my body is the altar. If I refuse, the planting fails and the village starves. The torches gutter and spit resin. Copal smoke grips the throat. A jaguar rasp cuts the dark as drums lean on my ribs. The hour has teeth, the high priest says. Breathe with them. I keep the breath low, counting heartbeats against the stone. Drum to drum, rib to rib, will to will. You will walk the sakbe as an offering, he says, or you will walk it as a warning. That line feels like a blade laid flat. I look past him to the pyramid face and its shadowed stare. The Temple of Kukulcán waits, black angles drinking starlight. I answer, I walk as offering. Power shifts. He nods once, a measured concession I did not earn. The village stands within earshot, hidden behind the plaza wind. We left the fields yesterday with furrow lines still open. If I fail tonight, we bury seed into indifferent dust. If I pass, rain has a reason to remember us. They paint my limbs with mud drawn from the Tzompantli's base. Copper smells like storms. Grit stings the wrists. Hold still, a boy whispers, eyes wide. He does not look at me. He studies the blade. Reeds on the cenote rim click softly in the current. A cold breath rises from the water, old as the underworld. Do you fear drowning? He asks. No, I say. I fear floating when no one speaks my name. The priest steps close. Creation is not polite, he murmurs. The world began from a joining, sky entering earth, and the rite repeats what built the sky. He lets that sentence sit on my shoulders like weight. You are a hinge. Hinges grind. I meet his eyes so he hears the decision. I will grind, I say. I choose the pain before it chooses me. Outcome seals itself in the next breath. The attendants move. A conch wails. Its note rattles the teeth of the night. Women answer with a low hum that rides the drums. Soot freckles my tongue. The smoke writes figures I refuse to read. The cord, the priest says. A runner arrives along the sakbe, feet whispering chalk. He carries a coil wrapped in cotton and salt. We don't speak its purpose aloud. An elder pinches my ear. Her fingers are river stones. Listen and do not argue, she says, voice soft as felt. Pain is a door. Doors open outward. Subtext hangs between us. You will not scream. I look at the coil again and see more than rope. I see seasons tied into fibres. I see dawn strapped to noon. No metaphors survive the next touch. There is only practice. There is only the learned way a hand turns the wrist. Two attendants kneel and bow to the ground. They lift the object from the coil like a scroll of bone. Its colour is dusk. Its barbs are tiny moons. Truth label, stingray spine. Do not flinch, the priest says, and hears himself command. I hear a man who prefers control to compassion. Power tilts when I answer. You may speak, I decide. He blinks, a small fall of rank in a single beat. The audience is close now. Sandals scratch the plaza crust. Mothers keep their children back with chin tilts. The warriors stand without shields. The shield tonight is the body. I unclench the jaw and set the tongue behind the teeth. He binds my hair aside. The night air bites the nape. A runner oils the spine so it won't splinter. Another steadies my shoulders. His breath hitches once. Count for me, I say. It keeps the wind in line. 1, he whispers. 2, I answer. We find a rhythm that can be trusted. The barbs wait like a storm you can name but not stop. The first touch is not pain. It is learning. Skin thinks about refusing, then obeys. When the barb commits, the world narrows to a coin of light. My breath stays on the coin and does not fall. Hold, says the priest, and hears that I'm already holding. The boy ties the cotton cord, careful to avoid the teeth. The elder taps my shoulder twice. mercy measured in habit. Some rites need no words to remain exact. The plaza shifts to the left. The cenote darkens to ink. I feel the city in its bones rather than its stones. Chichén Itzá is not watching, it is participating. Its geometry kneels into the night with us. I do not look up, the stars would bargain. I look into a long room lit by one window. Inside that room is a younger me, stubborn and loud. He will learn to be quiet tonight. Do you repent? The priest asks, trying a new angle. The word is wrong. We are not confessed. We are constructed. I repair, I say. Repentance is a courtroom. This is a workshop. He exhales. A craftsman recognizes work when he hears it named. A drum breaks into a faster hammer. Feet answer across the plaza like hail across clay. Something hot walks down the spine and anchors the hips. The spine finds the body recovers its use. He threads the cord through the perforation without hurrying. I flinch once and then set the eyes on the cenote mouth. Water beads on the stairs like beads on a brow. They will count these someday, I think, and let the thought go. The rope rests across skin like a verdict. No one announces the verdict. The plaza accepts it. My decision has an outcome and we all move to meet it. We move toward the next moment with sobriety, not sorrow. Walk, the priest says, testing command again. I stand before he can insist and I start the steps. He follows. The conch sounds, the village breathes. The sakbe does what roads do. It leads and it returns. We pause at the lip where wind becomes voice. The cenote opens like a lung in the earth. Cold breath rises, humming against the cord. The body is an instrument, and the hand must learn the song. A child coughs, a woman shushes. Sandals drag once. I turn to face them so they understand what has occurred. I chose, I say, and do not raise my voice. The plaza hears it. The water hears it. The priest lowers his eyes. Tonight is not the death of a person. It is the maintenance of a calendar. The cosmos is not distant. It sits in the bowl of the cenote. We oil its hinges with what it once gave us. We return a fraction and borrow a season. I do not collapse when the drums stop. I do not kneel when the conch falls silent. I stand until the cord stills and the breath evens. Outcome holds. The village will plant at first light. Before sunrise, the couriers will run news across the sakbe. By noon, the fields will swallow seed without complaint. By night, the elders will tally omens in the smoke, and I will wash the resin from my hands in the cenote wind. Rest, the elder says, her hand on my neck. Do not soak the rope, the boy warns, proud and afraid. The priest adds nothing. He understands the limits of his office. Power settles where work was done. I keep most of it. The truth is simple and resists ornament. I decided to act. The result altered the day. A body is not a sermon. It is a bridge when the city requires a crossing. I held while the city crossed me. When the last torch dies, the plaza glows with used heat. Someone sings a low phrase with no words. We answer by leaving our shadows on the stones. Dawn will take the rest and leave what is needed. Before sunrise, the plaza is already an eye that does not blink. The rite is public, and my body is its open doorway. The drums flatten the air. Breath becomes the measure. The body is the temple, the high priest says, and tonight the temple must be seen. I fix the breath low and even, a steady engine under bone. A guard steps close, palm on my sternum, demanding speed. Faster, he says, voice made of stone dust. I keep the count, I answer, not lifting my eyes. He leans his weight, testing authority. The ribs hold the pace like oars against a current. Crowds press the edges of the plaza without speaking. Torchlight jumps across the Tzompantli and licks the carvings. Smoke from Copal settles, sweet and thick, then climbs again. The guard raises his chin at the boy with the coil. He wants pain to lead the moment rather than breath. I choose otherwise, and make that choice audible. You set the task, I tell him. Power flip. I set the rhythm. His hand lifts away as if the air clarified its rule. We follow the sack bay toward the heart of the square. Chalk dust grips the soles. Each step writes a pale line. The road remembers thousands of feet. It remembers hours now. On the left, the Ballcourt waits like a corridor of echoes. On the right, vendors' stalls lie folded under woven mats. At this hour, the city reorders itself around the rite. Count, I say to the attendant who mirrors me. 1, he answers, and I hold the breath on that word. 2, I return, sending the word into the sternum to live there. The guard walks at my shoulder, not ahead. He watches for a stumble he can claim as failure. He will not get it. The breath is steel when used correctly. We cross the plaza stones, warm from last night's fires. A woman lifts a child to see. The child does not wave. He studies the chord with the attention saved for storms. The priest calls the point, cenote, then altar, then ascent. Procession is a tool. Tools must be handled without vanity. We proceed in the order that keeps thought clean. Wind rises from the rim of the Cenote Sagrado. It is a cold exhale that meets the mouth and steadies it. Stop here, the priest says, voice smaller in the open. The coil comes forward, cotton wrapped, salted against sweat. Its weight is unremarkable. Its intent is not. When the boy unwraps it, the barbs catch the torchlight. He holds it out and does not name it. I name it to make it ordinary enough to obey. Truth label, 1 thorned cord. The guard tries the old tone again. Tighten now, he says, eyes on the boy. Tighten when I say, I reply, and the boy hears me first. Subtext lives in his silence. He will serve the breath. The priest watches the exchange and makes no correction. He is old enough to prefer outcomes over posture. Light the copal, the priest says, and the runners hurry. Resin touches coal and becomes a white column. The odour is honey and bark. It clings to the tongue. We dip a shell into the cenote and splash the coil. Water beads along the thorns and threads the spaces. The cord drinks the cold and waits to be used. Do you consent to be seen? The priest asks carefully. He does not ask whether I consent to pain. That is decided. I consent to be seen as necessary, I answer. The guard cannot leave it alone. Then show strength, he says, trying to own the word. I show discipline, I say, and the word lands heavier. Discipline is a kind of shelter when heat rises. The drums spread heat. The crowd adds its own weather. I keep breath under both and do not trade it away. At the cenote rim, the elders set a small table of clay. Bowls hold ash, salt, and a paste of blue lime. The paste marks joints and makes a map of strain. The boy paints my shoulders where the cord will lie. Fingers are careful. Pressure is consistent. Craft shows. He is afraid and proud. He looks like work feels. Walk the edge, the priest says, hand indicating a slow arc. We move along the stone lip with eyes forward. The water below edits light into broken coins. There is a hiss when copal drops touch the surface. It sounds like snakes refusing drink. We listen because listening keeps pride quiet. Faster, the guard says again, thin patience showing. No, I answer, and keep the cadence even. He looks to the priest and finds no rescue. The plaza leans in. Sound narrows to the drum skin. Hand to chest, I count 3, then 4, then 5. Each number turns the body into a metronome the city trusts. Decision hardens in the mouth and behind the eyes. I will not bargain breath for spectacle. Outcome. The guard falls into step rather than ahead of it. We turn from the rim and face the square. A runner smudges blue on my wrists as a record. Another lifts the cord so it doesn't drag. The priest raises a shell filled with copal ash. He casts a thin trail along the sack bay like a fuse. We stand still while the smoke maps our path. "Begin," he says, but his voice is soft. Beginnings are not loud when the work is old. We move because movement is the form of agreement. The guard whispers near my ear, testing a smaller blade. "Pain proves truth," he says. Sure, he has me cornered. "Pain proves only preparation," I answer, and he blinks. Subtext: I will not let him own truth or pain. He adjusts his grip without answering. Control shifts to where breath was planted earlier. We walk the chalk-white road toward the center. Sandals scuff, ash lifts and settles on skin. A runner keeps pace with a bowl, feeding the copal. Children at the edge mimic our breathing for play. Their mothers correct them with a look that ends games. Play will return after planting. Tonight is not for play. At the plaza heart, the drums change pattern. A conch pushes a long note across the stones. The note meets the cenote wind and does not break. "Here," the priest says, pointing at a mark, "it is a circle, scuffed into the dust by many heels. We stop on that circle because repetition is also a tool." He places his palm on my back, not pressing. "The hand is a sign, not a command. Hold to your count," he says, and means it. The guard hears it and swallows the argument. He nods, a small bow to the breath he cannot shorten. The nod is the boundary between order and chaos. We dip the shell again and feed the copal. White smoke rises, then folds east with the wind. Someone murmurs a verse older than any face here. The boy lifts the cord and looks for my signal. I raise 2 fingers and then 1. On 0, we draw it across skin, not through. It is not the tearing of P1. It is a binding. The barbs sit against the paint and announce their teeth. We measure tolerance instead of chasing spectacle. "Count it," I tell him, voice low enough to keep it ours. 4 breaths on each step, no more. He nods and breathes with me until we share a clock. We circle once more along the cenote's edge. Water speaks in small taps against the stone. The rope answers with a light scrape, then quiet. The priest nods, satisfied that the pace is honest. Honesty here is not sentiment, it is calibration. Calibration keeps the city from drifting into fever. The guard is impatient, but his role is now narrower. He polices space, not time. Time belongs to breath and to work. We return along the sack bay toward the altar stairs. The chalk stains toes and the inside of the heel. Each stain is a receipt the stone writes and keeps. "Enough," the guard tries again, thin and late. "Enough is when the breath says so," I answer. The boy hides a smile in his shoulder. We stop at the chosen step and turn outward. People exhale together without planning to. The city has learned the count by listening. Outcome, stated without flourish. I kept the rhythm. Pain entered on schedule and left on schedule. The choice to breathe, not rush, reduced the paths but strengthened the one we walked. By first light, the ash line across the sack bay will be cold. By noon, the plaza will return to trade and talk. But for this hour, the body and the temple were the same room. The guard steps back a pace and finds a new place to stand. No one tells him to move. The count already moved him. We hold the shape we made until the drums release it. When the priest lowers his hand, the crowd lowers its shoulders. The cord is lifted and laid across a cloth. We do not name it again. Naming once was enough. Air tastes of resin and metal. Skin remembers rope. Breath falls to walking speed, then to resting speed. Discipline kept the door kept the city. Before first light, the plaza tightens around us. Breath is a tool and I keep it sharp. The cord lies coiled on a cloth near the Cenote Sagrado. Copal smoke wanders low, tasting like honey burned on iron. "Stand," the high priest says. "Witnesses are already counting." I plant my feet on the sack bay and lock the count. A guard hovers, eyes fixed on the place where pain will begin. "Do not drift," he says, staking a claim on my focus. "I do not drift," I answer. "I choose." Subtext: he wants the crowd to think my will is his. Children are quiet behind the Tzompantli. Women murmur a hymn that rides the drumskins. The Ballcourt breathes back a faint echo and waits. He lifts the object that will change the morning. The boy oils it with a thumb and watches for splinters. "Name it," I tell him, to keep fear from multiplying. He glances at the priest and then at me. "Spine of stingray," he says. The word steadies his hand like a handle. The priest steps closer. His breath smells of resin and sleep. "Hold this wisdom," he says, voice almost kind. "Creation repeats what began the world." I nod once. The body accepts instruction without surrender. "The village will plant because I hold," I say. A few heads bow. The work has an audience and a purpose. A runner splashes cenote water across my hands. Another paints blue lime at the place to be pierced. Wind lifts the smoke and sets it down again. "Now," the priest says. He tips the spine to catch torchlight so the crowd sees its teeth. He places the point and waits for my breath to lean into it. "Count," I say. "1," the boy whispers, voice young and steady. The first push is not pain. It is a negotiation with skin. "2," I answer, mind narrowed to a clean square. On 3, the barb enters, and the square becomes a bright coin. Heat pours along the edges and finds my ribs. The guard leans in as if to claim the moment. "Hold, because I command it," he says. "I hold because I decided," I reply. Power flip. Power moves on the floor like a shadow changing owners. He steps back a fraction, and the crowd reads that step. Breath returns to the place it belongs. 3, the boy says. The voice vibrates against stone. Blood beads clean and precise, not wild. The priest nods. His eyes mark the line and the teaching. We pause. The plaza settles. Copal climbs and parts around our shoulders like cloth. The cenote breathes a colder breath that soothes the skin. Many scholars argue the rite survived because land remembers payment. Elders say memory lives in water more than in words. I keep hedge and practice together so pride does not ruin discipline. Thread, the priest signals with 2 fingers. The runner brings the cord wrapped in cotton and salt. It smells of fibre, sweat, and the cenote's faint metal. The boy holds his breath so he does not tremble. We will not hurry, I tell him. Haste would turn craft into spectacle. We angle the first thorn to avoid tearing. The cord kisses the opening and waits for the breath to match it. On the next count, we feed it through. 4, I say, and muscles release then hold. The cord finds its path with a soft scrape. Again, the priest says, but he means continue, not suffer. He guides the line across blue-painted skin. The guard watches for weakness and finds calibration instead. Outcome tilts. He becomes witness, not driver. Soot pricks the tongue. Resin coats the throat. The drums move from chest to belly where endurance lives. A conch throws a long note that straightens spines. The second pass is smoother. Craft improves under pressure. The boy's hands learn the distance between careful and timid. Good, I tell him, and his shoulders lower a finger's width. We tie a light knot that will not shred. The cord rests without biting deeper than the rite allows. This is the difference between pain as proof and pain as waste. Raise your eyes, the priest says softly. I lift them to the staircase of the Temple of Kukulcán. Stone receives light as if it has earned the right to shine. He gestures to the sack bay, then to the rim again. We will walk a circle to teach the city our count. Order is a form of kindness when crowds are large. A woman sings a single phrase without consonants. Wind pushes the note toward the water, and breaks it into ripples. The crowd listens because listening keeps the heat from boiling. We move along the plaza edge with measured steps. Each footprint prints chalk beside older prints. The road is a ledger. Tonight it records breath. The boy keeps pace half a step behind my shoulder. He will inherit methods, not explanations. Methods outlive speeches when storms come. Add water, the priest says, measuring heat with his palm. The runner lifts a shell and pours a thin line. It cools the cord and writes a wet trace down my side. The guard tries a new lever, voice low and near. Show them blood, he says, bargaining for spectacle. They will see the count, I answer, and the word closes his mouth. I plant heel to toe and keep the ribs easy. A child coughs. Sandals hush him without words. Even the Ballcourt swallows echo to avoid distraction. We reach the cenote lip and pause. Light collects at the bottom like coins no hand can reach. 3 breaths, the priest says, and we take them. I look beyond Chichén Itzá without leaving it. Memory carries me to steps carved far to the south. On mornings like this, the stair at Copal looks freshly washed in red. Dawn there, pools and grooves cut by centuries of feet. Birds dust the edges and leave the middle clean for passage. Work looks the same wherever stone touches skin and promise. We turn back toward the square and keep the cadence. The cord tugs, then settles when breath returns to its mark. The boy hums without realizing, matching drum to lung. Steady, the priest says, checking for pride's shine. He finds none. We tuned pride out at the first cut. Pride ruins grip. Grip decides outcomes. The guard falls behind the rhythm. He hears it and adjusts. He'll tell a different story later. Tonight the story writes itself in open air. Women tilt bowls so smoke bends like a path. Runners touch ash to their own wrists for luck. The city studies without interrupting. We stop at a scuffed circle where hundreds have stopped. Bind, I say, and the boy lays the cord flat with 2 fingers. He ties a small knot that will yield before it scars. The priest marks the knot with blue. He is careful not to press harder than the rite permits. Craft governs hierarchy when bodies are on the line. A breath catches and releases through the crowd. The cenote's wind licks the paint and dries it clean. I feel the square, and the square feels me back. He holds out a small bowl, and I lean so it can catch. 3 bright beads fall and rock like seeds on clay. Truth label, the first 3 drops. The boy looks at me and half smiles. He will tell this moment by counting, not embellishing. Counting saves stories from weather. We stand until the conch lowers and the drums thin. The guard bows his chin and learns where authority went. It moved to discipline and stayed there. Outcome, the cut was exact. The threading was exact. No hurry turned the rite into a parade. The city learned our clock and trusted it. Walk, the priest says, voice returned to plain. We walk because movement means we agree. Agreement keeps crowds human when heat pushes them toward noise. At the sakbe's mouth, I turn to face them. I hold the work, I say. The land will hold its side. The elders nod. The runners exhale. The boy cradles the cord. We made a room inside the square where precision lived. We will use that room again before the sun owns the sky. I taste resin, copper, and the cenote's cold signature. My hands remember the weight of the spine and the cord. My back remembers the measure, not the wound. We drift toward the altar steps in silence. The Ballcourt returns its echo as a small gift. Chichén Itzá keeps the count like a keeper of ledgers. By day the fields will read the wind and decide to accept seed. By night the elders will mark favourable signs in ash. The city will sleep because the hinge held and did not squeal. I do not hurry to sit. I do not hurry to speak. I breathe until the body comes back to itself and stays. The The guard watches with a different face. He has learned that breath outruns command in narrow spaces. He will try to remember that when he is alone. The priest sets the spine back on cloth with respect. He is not sentimental. He is precise. Precision is a form of mercy when crowds are watching. We end the circuit and let the music end us. The conch fades. The drums finish a sentence they began in the dark. We hold the last quiet as if it were a tool. The square exhales. The cenote keeps its own counsel. The morning takes our count and writes it into light. Before dawn, the council gathers at the altar's west landing. Warriors stand like posts and elders fold their hands into the night's last chill. The high priest lifts a torch and studies my face. Today you repeat what was promised, he says. You will wear the law and make it visible. I breathe until speech lands where it belongs. I will carry the law, I answer. I will not carry your vanity. We move along the sack bay, chalk dust breathing under sandals. Copal wakes and thickens. The odour sweetens into metal. Women set bowls beside the stair to mark the path. He points to a slab rubbed smooth by hands and weather. Names run along its edge like a spine under skin. Many scholars argue names become law when stone repeats them. Attend, he says, raising the torch for the council to see. On a stela at Yaxchilan Plaza, the king bleeds for order. The image is not a story, it is a schedule written in pain. He wants the warriors to feel borrowed authority. He wants me to feel small before a foreign stone. I do not grant him either. Speak its lesson, he commands, voice steady and tall. Law returns what it takes, I say, steady and short. Blood writes the hinge and keeps the door from failing. The Ballcourt on our right holds its echo like a mouth. The cenote on our left exhales cold that steadies skin. Chichén Itzá listens. A city can do that when trained. He taps the carved scene where the ruler bends. See the posture, he says. See the witness hands. I see the work, I answer. Witness follows work. Power flip. A guard shifts. One warrior hides a smile. We mark the forearms with blue lime to map strain. Ash lines cross the wrists like measured threads. A runner salts the cotton so sweat will not swell it. Hold there, the priest says, aligning my stance to the slab. He wants the crowd to join the past and the present. The air leans closer. The plaza breathes in one chest. A conch sends a note along the stones and it returns. The note brushes the Tzompantli and brushes the stair. Drums answer with steps a body can borrow. The council watches, he says. Then let them learn, I answer. I keep the breath low where work survives attention. He signals and two boys lift a basket of shells. Inside are small bells made from pale spirals. They chime when tipped, a river of soft metal. From Palanque, he says, laying them along the stair. At the temple of the inscriptions the bells teach time. He shakes them once and the rhythm changes shape. The stair becomes a metronome the crowd can hear. The bells cut through Copal and ride the drumline. We step to the new count because order wants an edge. Lift your chin, he says, balancing instruction and theatre. I lift it, but for the count, not for the image. Craft is quiet, theatre is loud. The city needs the first. Read the names, he says, hand near the stealers' names. I refuse the sound of recitation. I recite the act. The ruler binds his name by pain, I say. The city binds itself by witness. The council hears structure and stops looking for ornament. He brings a bowl of charcoal ground with oil. It smells like rain trapped under bark. He holds it out with a small brush made from reed. Trace the arc, he orders. It will teach their hands later. I take the brush, and grip it like a knife. On the west landing, a shallow groove marks a previous hand. I place the brush above it and breathe once to level the wrist. The brush makes a black path from wrist to hip like a stern instruction. Again, he says, testing whether pride will add flourish. I keep the line plain and sharp and leave it there. Children crane to see. The line is bolder than talk. Explain, a warrior says, voice clean of mockery. Practice is mercy, I answer. The law is a blade. Charcoal saves skin from waste. The priest circles, measuring angles, preserving ceremony. He wants applause that never belonged to this work. He will not find it while I hold the count. He gestures to the shells along the step. Change the rhythm again, he says. Bells tilt. The cadence tightens by a hair. We match it with breath, not with show. Breath is the tool. Show is the cost. The crowd senses the difference and settles. He raises the stingray spine but does not touch me. We do not cut again. The lesson today is governance. Pain already purchased what the law required. Name the stealer, he says, pressing for ownership of knowledge. Name the function, I answer. He waits. The council waits. I give them only function. It proves the ruler bleeds under rules, I say. It does not grant rulers the right to make new rules. A murmur travels the stair and fades back into stone. He tests my resolve with a softer lever. Honour the ancestor, he says. Honour the living, I answer, and do not move. We walk 3 paces down to the second rung. Shells whisper, copal shifts. Wind writes along my neck. The plaza keeps silent like a scribe who knows his place. At Palanca bells mark the pace of reading stone. Here they mark the pace of learning to obey the count. Different cities, same discipline, no theatre added. He turns to the warriors. You will keep this path, he says. You will drill it until pride forgets its name. I speak so they understand where my consent lives. I follow the law when it guards the small, I say. I will not follow a hand that wants the crowd. A guard steps close as if to reclaim space. I do not give it. I turn and he turns with me. Subtext sits heavy. He knows the line we just drew. We pause by the cenote where the wind steadies. Water below stacks light into broken coins again. I feel the cord rest. It has learned how not to bite. He offers the bowl of ash, and I mark the charcoal line with it. Ash softens the shine and makes the arc legible. Someone behind me repeats the motion in air to memorize. Again, the priest says, but I hear the word enough. The council shifts weight. The bells answer with their thin river. We have taught what was needed without wasting a body. He nods and lowers the spine to the cloth as if to bed. Respect lands late, but still lands. He is not sentimental. He is exact. We lift our eyes to the stair and to the square. The morning is a soft colour that does not pretend. It finds the stela and makes the names look newly cut. Outcome, I say, making the word short. We kept the order that keeps the seed from failing. A woman near the bowls exhales like someone setting down a jar. We step aside so others can study the arc. Hands trace air instead of skin. Safety is instruction too. The city learns faster when fear is not the teacher. The priest stands with me at the edge of the step. He wants to speak a blessing and pauses to choose one. He chooses none. Craft has its own language. Hold to this discipline at midday, he says. Hold to it at dusk. He means the field and the hearth. I hear both. A runner sets a cloth on the stair's north lip. He lays an object on it and folds the corner back. The council leans to see the weight of the law made simple. Truth label, one inscribed stela naming the ruler. I bow my head just enough that he sees it. I bow to the work, not the theatre. Work bows back when you meet it correctly. The bells go quiet. The drums change to a walking gait. We descend 3 steps and turn to face the plaza. The crowd holds its breath because the count taught them how. "Return to your places," the priest says. His voice is plain. The performance is over. What remains is the method, and the method spreads. We cross the Sac Bay to the altar's east landing. Chalk writes on our toes, resin writes on our tongues. Light climbs the Temple of Kukulcán without hurry. A boy touches the charcoal line with a dry finger. He looks at the smudge and understands angle. Angles become habits. Habits keep cities from breaking. The guard approaches, trying a courteous face. "Your posture honoured the names," he says. "My posture honoured the living who will need food," I answer. He nods. The argument dies without a sound. Not defeat, adjustment. He can hold a gate now instead of shaking it. We leave the stair in good order. The conch seals the hour with one long note. It carries across Plaza Norte and dies at the market wall. Outcome: the council has a pattern they can teach. The crowd has a picture they can repeat without injury. The law keeps its teeth and we keep our skin. By mid-morning the bells will sleep in a basket. By noon the ash will blur under feet and wind, but the arc will remain inside wrists and memory. I don't look back at the stela when we pass it. I carry its function forward and leave its grandeur behind. The city prefers results to poses. So do I. The priest walks at my shoulder, no longer. Ahead. "Hold the noon rite to the same count," he says. "I will," I answer, and we both mean it. We end at the cenote rim where the air is cleanest. Water folds the morning into itself and keeps it cool. We keep the city within its frame and walk into the day. Near midday, the square tightens into order. The law steps forward wearing breath and ash, and I stand where the body must answer cleanly. At Uxmal's nunnery quadrangle, the carved phallus faces stone like instruction. The high priest lifts a torch toward the relief. "Remember," he says, "desire is scheduled, or it becomes famine." A guard at my shoulder smiles without warmth. "Some schedules are for breaking," he says, eyes on the crowd. He means rumour. He wants spectacle to run ahead of ritual. "I keep the schedule," I answer. Rites first, gossip later. Subtext: he will not get his parade. Wynne crosses the plaza from the cenote and lifts the smoke. Copal tastes like sweet bark and old metal. Children press near the Ballcourt wall and do not speak. A woman steps forward with her hair knotted in a work coil. She bows to the priest and points at me without raising her arm. "Accusation stands," she says, voice cut short by nerves. The guard takes that thread like a man snapping rope. "Adultery drags the calendar," he declares. "Law calls for stones, not slow breathing." The priest does not nod. He looks at the relief again as if stone will answer. He lifts his hand and the drums fall to a slower pulse. I watch the guard watching the crowd. He wants pain to prove purity. He wants speed to prove power. Speed breaks craft. Craft keeps cities alive. "State the law as work," I say to the priest. He meets my eyes, then the woman's eyes. He turns to the guard last. "Work first," he says, "then sentence if work fails." Discipline moves the hour forward. The guard's smile thins. He needs the square to see him driving the wheel. He will need something else today. We cross the Sac Bay to the west side of the plaza. Ash lines the path like small winters drawn on chalk. Sandals hush on the stone while the city listens. "Breathe with me," I tell the boy who carries the coil. He nods and finds the count we taught him yesterday. Discipline is a tool. The tool remembers hands. At the relief, the priest touches the carved line of a thigh. "Order records itself in bodies," he says, "not to shame them, to align them." "Name the relief," the guard snaps, grasping at detail. "Name the function," I answer, keeping voice plain. Function feeds villages. Names feed vanity. He wants a fight. I want a schedule that holds. Bring the ledger, I say to a runner. Bring the blue lime and the reed. He hesitates, watching the guard for permission. Bring them, the priest says, and the runner sprints. Stone answers to method, not to volume. The woman with the accusation stands near the Ballcourt gate. She does not hide, she does not plead. She watches the hands that will anchor the day. The guard steps close enough to cast a shadow across my chest. You will take stones for this, he whispers, or you will bend to my count. I take the city's count, I answer. Power flip. You carry stones or you carry silence. His jaw tightens, his shadow thins. He steps back because the priest has turned. The priest holds a folded cloth and a small reed. His eyes no longer seek the relief for answers. Mark the schedule, he says. Make it visible so it can govern. We kneel by the relief where the light is even. A bowl of blue lime arrives with the runner. Its smell is chalk and river. The reed is smooth and honest in the hand. Left wrist, the priest says, then ribs, then hip. I draw thin lines that will guide practice, not punishment. They are straight because breath levels them. They are few because clutter becomes theatre. The guard cannot bear silence. Stones are the cleaner lesson, he asserts. They end talk. Stones end crop hands too, I say. Work needs hands. The crowd hears arithmetic, even if he does not. We walk the mark from relief to body and calm. Each line is a promise of controlled effort. Each line keeps a place where panic might try to live. The woman watches with a face that refuses drama. She wants order, not ashes over a story. She wants to know where her work returns. A conch calls the square into one chest. The sound travels along the Tzompantli and returns softer. Air cools from the cenote and meets the note halfway. Proceed, the priest says, voice returned to measure. Prove control, and we keep the seed safe. He turns to the crowd so witness understands function. We cross to the east landing where shadows are short. The guard follows because role keeps him necessary. He will learn to serve sequence or stand apart from it. I hold the line drawn at my ribs and breathe low. The boy keeps count with 2 fingers near my shoulder. His eyes are steady. His fear is honest. Cut nothing today, the priest says, loud enough to travel. The rite is governance, not blood. The crowd exhales, not relief, understanding. He taps the punishment stone laid near the Ballcourt gate. It is smooth from years of hard use. He does not invite stones to fly. Sentence lives inside schedule, he declares. Violation meets discipline that returns the violator to function. The guard blinks. The square recalibrates. The woman hears it and stands straighter. She is not an enemy. She is a witness. Witness stabilizes what rumor unthreads. The guard tries to pivot into the new air. Then display the discipline, he says. Prove you can be governed. Prove you can govern, I reply and keep breathing. He looks away first. That is a sentence of its own weight. We split the hour into measured acts the city can copy. Count 4, hold, count 4, move. The square learns without shouting. A runner brings a thin tablet wrapped in cotton. I open it with my thumb so the crowd can see the grid. Columns run from left to right like clean furrows. Record, the priest says. Record so tomorrow has a map of today. Pierre holds the reed and waits for the exact phrasing. I speak without ornament. 3 cycles of restraint at the hearth, I say. 2 shared fasts before dusk on market days. He writes. 4 supervised preparations before festival nights, I add. Breathwork at first light, counted by an elder. He writes again. The guard leans to see if a trap waits in the lines. He finds none. Only work. Hedge lives in my next breath where history demands caution. Many scholars argue public schedules turn desire from threat to labour. Evidence suggests famine retreats when bodies follow mapped days. The priest signs the bottom with a mark he has used for decades. He holds the tablet up so the crowd sees writing, not rumour. Writing makes faithful copies, shouting does not. The woman steps to the edge where air meets stone. "I will follow it," she says. "I will not be burned by talk." "You will be measured by craft," I tell her. "Your body stays your body. Your work stays ours." Subtext: the law protects, not devours. The guard tries a softer blade. "You would spare them and weaken order," he says. "Order is strengthened by precision," I answer. We move along the Ballcourt wall where echoes fold. Sweat gathers under paint and dries to salt crystals. The scent is resin, skin, and lime. "Call the points," the priest says to the boy. He calls them so the city memorizes shape and time. He is proud without showing off. "Wrist mark holds," he says. "Rib mark holds, hip mark holds." "Now the ledger," the priest adds. We return to the tablet and fix the last line. "Second market day review by elder," I say. He writes that line and draws a shortcut above it. The cut is not a wound, it is a check mark. It closes the list, so no hands add pride later. "Read it," he tells me, voice even. I read without ceremony, so the function stays clean. The crowd nods, the hour keeps its edge. The guard breathes like a man who wants to object and cannot. He adjusts his belt and steps back one pace. Space finds the right owner when methods hold. A runner brings water in a gourd. I drink once and pass it to the woman. She drinks and looks at the tablet, not at me. "Outcome," I say for the square. "Discipline replaces stones, work returns to the hands that need it." The conch draws a straight line across the plaza. Drums change to a slow gait for walking back. We walk because walking seals agreements. We set the tablet at the stairs base to dry. Its grid will keep its shape in the sun. Writing prefers light. Rumour prefers shadows. A child reaches toward the tablet and stops himself. His mother nods at his restraint, then nods at me. Small governances support large ones. The priest holds the reed a moment longer. He looks at the guard until looking becomes work. The guard bows just enough to keep his status. "Announce the artifact," the priest says quietly. I lift the tablet so all can see the columns. The grid carries the weight of a field. Truth label, ritual ledger with 13 columns. Wind from the cenote cools the lines until they set. The city watches them harden into practice. The hour moves because we gave it a spine. We open the plaza again to trade and talk. Vendors uncover bowls, children find games. The guard finds a new post to watch from. I stand at the edge while the priest lowers the torch. Our breaths return to ordinary lengths. Ordinary is the target, not spectacle. He speaks at a human volume. Hold this schedule at dusk. "I will," I say, because work repeats to stay real. He turns to the woman and nods once. She nods back and joins the market path. Her steps match the drum even after the drum stops. I faced a relief at Uxmal one last time in my mind. Stone stays stone. Bodies move forward. The square learns what to keep and what to change. We leave the punishment stone untouched. Leaving it untouched is a lesson. A lesson can be heavy without being loud. Light climbs the Temple of Kukulcán without hurry. Ash sketches fade under feet that return to errands. But the ledger keeps its map, where hands can find it. By afternoon, the field will open for planting. By evening, kitchens will breathe cumin and steam. By night, the ledger's lines will hold another house in place. Discipline carried the hour. Rumour did not. Order returns what it takes, and keeps us from wasting what we cannot spare. By mid-afternoon, the air turns thin and exact. We move from heat to study, and the body remains the instrument the rite requires. A runner brings a folded packet wrapped in cotton. It smells of smoke and lime. The priest weighs it like a tool, not a treasure. From the missionary house, he says, a copy of a chronicle that argues to end our rites. He looks at me to see if breath can hold against ink. I keep count low and steady. Read for work, I answer, not for insult. He nods once and opens the packet. Ink climbs rough fibre in cramped Latin. Margins carry small crosses like nails in a plank. The guard arrives with a smile that prefers verdicts. Let the book speak, he says. Let it cancel the night. Let the field decide, I reply. If ink feeds seed, I obey ink. Subtext, your power needs harvest to stay dressed. He wants the square to hear him drive the hour. He raises his chin toward the priest. Condemn the flesh and we keep order, he says. The priest does not answer him. He clears his throat and reads the first line aloud. Words from a distant mouth try to rearrange our breathing. I stand where the sack bay meets the west landing. Wind from the Cenote Sagrado cools the wrists. The Tzompantli is quiet and clean. Many scholars argue these accounts are tilted, I say. They see heat and call it sin. They see rhythm and call it riot. Hedge keeps anger from becoming theatre. A runner lights copal and sets it by the slab. Resin thickens the air without drowning it. We can read and breathe at the same time. Decision, the priest says, looking at the packet. Will the rite stay or will paper rule? He's old enough to ask cleanly. It stays, I answer. The body pays the calendar. Paper pays only itself. Outcome waits on proof, not noise. We mark the hour on the slab with a coal line. The priest reads the harshest paragraph. The crowd listens because they know the cost of noon. The guard leans close, voice low and eager. Say the book is holy, he presses. Say you submit to it. I submit to the work, I say. Power flip. Bring me evidence that keeps villages alive. He steps back the width of a heel. We move south along the plaza to the painted chamber. Bonampak waits with its blue that refuses weather. The boy opens the door cloth and we enter the shade. The air is cooler here. It tastes like clay. Paint holds to the stone with a stubborn calm. Figures breathe with their own count. I point at a patch where the blue is strongest. Look at the binder, I say, lime and indigo married by heat. Evidence suggests this colour survives because smoke changed it. Many argue it endures when rain scrubs everything else away. The wall keeps its voice while years tire themselves out. Name the function, the priest says. Colour that will not run, I answer. Memory that will not rot when storms come. He nods and strokes the air, not the wall. Respect keeps craft alive longer than faith alone. We keep hands off and let sight do the labour. The guard cannot hold his tongue. Pretty paint does not sanctify the flesh, he says. He wants to move the crowd back to fear. Paint proves record, I answer. Record proves method. The room hears plain steps, not slogans. A runner tilts a small lamp toward a corner. The blue deepens when the flame leans. Eyes adjust. Breath stays even. Desire scheduled is strength, I say. Desire unscheduled is famine. The room accepts the sentence because hunger is a hard teacher. We leave Bonampak and return to the light. Heat re-enters the ribs and asks to be measured. I keep the count that kept the night from breaking. The priest folds the packet again. He does not hide it. He does not display it. He carries it like a tool with limits. We turn east toward the broken ring of Mayapan. Wind changes and brings dust that tastes like old lime. The guard wipes his mouth and scowls at nothing. Stones here remember collapse without lying about it. Courtyard edges show where roofs once taught shade. We stop by a low wall cut by roots. Right, the priest says, handing me a reed. Log the fragments and their positions. The boy opens a thin ledger with ruled columns. I crouch and call out clean words. Cornerstone, south face, 3 hand spans from fissure. He writes without hurry. Shattered lintel, east edge, near the tamarind. 2 roof tiles under compact soil. Each note is a habit that holds the future straight. The guard tilts his head, searching for theatre. He finds none and grows uneasy. He needs noise. Method makes him small. Say the book is wrong, he tries again. Say it now, loudly. He wants volume to cover his thin ground. The book is incomplete, I say. It sees bodies, but not the calendar that governs them. I keep my voice low so words travel further. Evidence suggests conquest makes a mirror that flatters the taker. It edits heat into sin and rhythm into threat. We keep the ledger because ledgers do not flatter. Mark that crack, the priest says, pointing. Note the angle and the fall. Angles are honest. They teach repair. A runner brings a small cloth-wrapped rectangle. The fibre feels like bark and dust. We open it and see tiny glyphs spaced like breath. The boy inhales and forgets to exhale. His eyes jump line to line. He looks at me and waits for permission to speak. Read the shapes, I tell him, not the myth you want. He smiles without moving his mouth. We trace a map of strains and support. It is not a sermon, it is a plan. Plans feed people when weather argues. Announce the artifact, the priest says quietly. I lift the rectangle so light licks its edge. Truth label. Catechism leaf on rag paper. The guard looks at the leaf as if it might bite. It condemns you, he mutters. It condemns waste, I answer. We set the leaf back into cloth and fold corners. Respect for paper does not equal surrender to it. Tools work when you tell them where to stop. We pace the courtyard once more, heel to toe. Dust climbs, then settles like a tame animal. The boy keeps the ledger steady against his ribs. Decision is clean, the priest says, voice plain. The rite stands, the schedule stands. He is careful with the word stands. Outcome joins the word like a weight, clicking into place. We will hold the rhythm at dusk and at dawn. We will bleed only when calendars demand payment. The guard steps in front of me as if to retake ground. He does not know the ground moved already. Do not mistake patience for permission, he says. I do not, I answer. I do not mistake noise for rule. He moves aside because the hour moved past him. We walk back along the sack bay toward the plaza. Shadows shorten, then lengthen as clouds slide. Breath does not bargain with shade. At the Ballcourt gate a woman watches with wheat in her hands. She studies the ledger and then my face. She does not ask for theatre. She asks for steady days. We will keep them, I tell her. We will give the sky the work it asks for. Promises are small here. They must be kept. The priest sets the packet on a low table. He places the ledger beside it, open to the clean columns. Writing and witness share the same light. Read the hour, he says. Let the city remember how we chose. He means calm. He means clarity. I recite the notes without flourish. Bonampak, blue stands. Mayapan cracks logged. Rite continues under schedule. Blood only by calendar. The crowd listens the way fields listen to rain. They do not cheer. They align. Alignment keeps harvest from gambling. He lifts the packet one last time. He does not bless it. He does not burn it. He puts it away like a hammer you might need, but not tonight. We stand at the cenote rim until breath cools. Water below rubs stone with a small voice. The voice fits the work fits the hour. By sunset, the ledger will have 3 new entries. By moonrise, the copal bowls will be washed and stacked. By dawn, our bodies will be ready to pay or to hold. I taste resin and lime and a hint of iron. My hands remember the spine and the cord and the reed. Memory is not the enemy. Panic is. Hold the count, the priest says, almost to himself. I will, I say, so he hears it. Discipline builds rooms inside hard days. We end the hour without spectacle. We keep the ride between ink and stone. The city carries on because the hinge does not squeal. Outcome, stated plain, the rite stands with proof, the book stands with limits. Decision made, method logged, breath unbroken. We return to work, which is what the sky asked for when it learned our names. Near dusk, the plaza holds its breath. Heat thins into focus, and the rite turns toward its most dangerous work. Pleasure harnessed to discipline so the calendar keeps faith. The drums change pattern at the Cenote Sagrado. The high priest lifts his hand once. Twin the breathing, he says. Do not twin the panic. A partner steps from the Tzompantli shadow. His face is calm. His chest already counts. We stand shoulder to shoulder on the sack bay and face the wind. The guard prowls the edge like a man licking a story. Pairing breeds chaos, he says, loud for the vendors' stalls. Chaos breeds famine. Pairing breeds control, I answer. We set the rhythm. Subtext, you will not own our pace. He edges closer, angling to break the line. Then show control, he says, eyes baiting the crowd. I tilt my head to the partner and we answer with breath. We cut words into lengths the body can carry. 4 counts in, 4 out, 4 held, 4 released. Breath becomes the tool that nails fear to wood. A runner brings a cloth-wrapped bundle from the market path. The priest opens it without ceremony. Inside, cedar smells like rain saved for a lean year. He sets 2 carved faces on a folded shawl. The wood is warm from a long walk along the Osuma Quinta. Traders said the designs were learned at Piedras Negra. He looks to me, not the guard. Use them, he says. Teach the city the edge. We lift the pieces and tie their cords behind our heads. The masks dampen sound and amplify heat through the cheeks. Breath has to earn every inch of air. The guard circles. Hide behind wood, he sneers. Let the crowd wonder what you conceal. We conceal nothing, I answer. Power flip. We measure something. The crowd hears the verb and leans toward order. The Ballcourt holds echo like a jar. The plaza listens with its walls. We keep the count and refuse the speed he demands. Step, the priest says, voice kept low to honor craft. We step together along the rim where the cenote exhales cold. Our feet make small agreements with the stone. A conch throws a long ribbon of sound. Women answer with a tone that rides the drum skins. The tone warms the back and tightens the belly. We turn and face the Temple of Kukulcán. Shadows climb the stair as if learning to behave. We keep them company by keeping time. The partner's shoulder brushes mine once. Hold, he says through linen. Hold, I return, and the word becomes a plank we both stand on. The guard wedges himself between us with his stare. Prove purity, he says. Prove it with tears. Prove schedule, I say to the priest. Prove it with breath. We refuse the theatre that empties granaries. The priest nods. Mark the points, he says to the boy. Wrists, ribs, hips. Blue lime cools the places that will take pressure. Paint maps strain so pride does not wander. Discipline places its fingers where shame would try to live. Wind moves the cenote reeds like quiet metronomes. Copal climbs and drapes the edge of the square. The masks warm against skin and learn our sweat. Count, the boy says, staying outside our circle. 1, he calls. We match the number with lungs. 2, he says, and our shoulders drop together. 3, and our bellies harden into patience. 4, and heat rotates along the spine like a tool. The guard hunts for misstep. He finds cadence instead of spectacle and grows thin. He needs a stumble to feed his office. I choose before he can choose for us. We raise the pace by a hair, I tell the partner. We raise it, we do not rush it. A runner wets the masks with cenote water. The cedar drinks and darkens. Smell is resin, river, and a thread of iron. A reveal. Pairing sharpens control, not chaos. It makes small mistakes audible so a city can correct them. The crowd hears a new honesty and steadies. We pivot to face Plaza Norte to share the count. Market cloths ripple like fish bellies in wind. Fire bowls spit and calm. Break them apart, the guard orders, desperate for command. No, the priest answers without raising his voice. The calendar asks for twin breath. We step again, and the drums follow our hips. Sweat climbs the paint and dries to salt. Heat requests respect, and we grant it precisely. Reversal. The guard now walks behind us, not ahead. He shadows our line because the crowd dismissed his hurry. He learns the count by accident. The boy lifts a shell. He pours cenote water across the sack bay in a clean stripe. Our heels enter and leave its shine on schedule. Hold the edge, the priest says, eyes on our hands. Do not let hands preach. Hands obey by staying useful. We align the masks, so eye slits share one horizon. The world narrows to geometry and strain. Strain bridges pleasure to service and keeps the city safe. A woman near the vendor's mat nods once. Her face says she understands the difference. Her hands will repeat it at home where it matters most. The drums thicken. The conch holds a note like a beam. We reach the peak of the rite where twin breath usually breaks. We do not break. The guard tries to reclaim the hour with volume. Now, bleed for proof, he shouts. Make the square remember you. Let it remember control, I say. We promised craft, not theatre. Subtext, entertainment is hunger by another name. He lowers his chin, cornered by a tool he cannot grab. Breath belongs to those who earn it. He did not. We turn toward the cenote rim and walk in small arcs. Wind skims the masks and cools the cheeks. The line of water below is a mouth that never speaks nonsense. The partner's voice is a thread inside cloth. Hold the last bend, he says. Hold, I answer, and our ribs answer too. Sensory jolt. A colder gust pours from the cenote throat. It tastes like copper and rain hidden in stone. Our count tightens as if rope remembered the knot. We finish the circle and face the stair. The priest lifts his hand, no flourish, only measure. We lower our masks together so the city sees eyes. The crowd does not cheer, it aligns. Alignment is the sound of stored grain. Grain like schedules more than legends. The guard tries a final lever. Call it victory, he says, grasping for a stage. Call it work, I answer, and the word ends the hunt. Power flip. He looks smaller with the word between us. Words can be gates when used with care. Gates keep fields safe from wandering heat. We walk to the Ballcourt gate where echoes are honest. The priest gestures at the shawl on the step. We set the objects down with the care they earned. Truth label. 2 sweat-damp wooden masks. He studies them as if measuring a plough. Repeat this at moonrise, he says. Let children learn by counting, not by guessing. A runner brings blue lime to remark the ribs. Paint cools and clarifies. The partner smiles a fraction. He has learned the weight of pace. A reveal to close the hour. Twin breath increases capacity. It trains restraint where noise would spread. It binds desire to schedule so hunger stays outside the door. We step along the sack bay once more to seal order. Footprints overlap the ash line drawn at noon. The geometry of obedience looks simple from a height. Women reset their bowls. Vendors lift mats. Air smells of copal, maize, and warm cedar. Children mimic our count and turn play into memory. Outcome, stated plain. We held the pairing without panic. We denied spectacle and increased control. The calendar gains strength. The guard loses a stage. Near the Cenote Sagrado, the wind steadies. We breathe until the masks cool. We return them to cloth for the night's next turn. The priest lowers his hand. The drums soften to a walking beat. He looks at the guard once and then away. Authority returns to where breath was planted. By moonrise we will repeat the work on the sack bay. By dawn the field will accept seed without argument. By evening the city will still be ours to govern with discipline. We leave the rim in good order. Shadows lengthen across Plaza Norte and find their places. I taste resin, cedar, and the clean salt of resolved fear. The partner speaks at last with his own voice. Hold again at moonlight, he says. I will, I answer. And the answer fits. The crowd thins without noise. The guard fades into a post that needs a calm man, not a loud one. He may become that man if the Count teaches him. We keep the masks wrapped and visible on the stair. Visibility is a language the city reads well. It says nothing decorative, it says enough. We stand a moment longer by the cenote breath. Nothing burns, nothing begs. The hour ends because the work ended, not because applause did. Discipline makes a path where heat would make a mouth. We walk that path together and left it open behind us. Others will find it. The city will hold. Twilight leans over Plaza Norte. Wind from the Cenote Sagrado steadies the mouth and reminds the ribs to behave. The high priest lifts a shell and turns to the stair. Decision, he says, voice plain for witness. The rite crosses its last threshold. At the cenote's lip, the supreme offering is named. The heart is fuel. The calendar asks for proof. Stone waits because stone has learned to be patient. The guard steps into the space the word opens. Choose a body, he says, hungry for haste. Make the square remember your courage. I will keep the law, I answer. I will also keep the field. Subtext: courage that wastes hands is theatre, not service. He smiles in a way that spends breath. Name the victim, he presses, eager for faces. The crowd tightens, heat rising and folding back. I breathe until the count becomes a room. Measure first, I say to the priest. Let the sun decide our angle. We walk the sack bay toward the Temple of Kukulcán. Shadows climb in steps across the north face. The city watches because watching is part of the work. At the base we place a reed on the stair and mark light. A runner brings blue lime and a string held taut. The mark holds because breath is level. Why stall, the guard says, displeased by geometry. Because order feeds people, I say. Speed feeds pride. He gestures as if to seize the hour with a fist. Name a chest, he insists, eyes on the crowd. His voice looks for thunder that the sky does not owe him. Listen for the sun, the priest says, gesturing to the line. Silence lengthens, the conch waits. Shadows thin into a decision no one can shout down. We move when the angle seals itself. Now, the priest says, softer than before, now we act without wasting. Wind carries copal across the plaza in a visible breath. It tastes of sweet bark and old metal. The C-note answers with a colder exhale. I turn back toward the keynote platform and keep the count. The guard falls beside me, craving a name he can punish. He wants spectacle to prove discipline. It never has. Name the victim, he repeats. You, I say, and let the breath finish the word. Power flip. He blinks as if struck by air rather than hand. He looks for rescue in the priest's face and finds none. Law allows exchange, the priest says. Law forbids hunger disguised as zeal. We stand at the cenote rim where coins of light float below. The crowd's attention is a weight we can use or waste. We will use it. I lay my palm on the platform stone. It holds heat like a lesson. Witness, I say. First, we measure again. We pace a short arc along the lip and halt. A runner paints a thin stripe where the sun's edge meets stone. The stripe is a promise the city can verify. Copal climbs, drums lower, mouths quiet. The boy sets a cloth on the platform and unwraps an object. Torchlight catches a chipped edge and holds it steady. Truth label, obsidian knife with a broken rim. I lift it so the square sees craft, not appetite. Edges glint where glass meets labour. Weight says function. Shape says restraint. The guard leans in, voice thin with salvage. Do it quickly, he says. Let blood speak. Blood speaks, I answer. Law translates. He swallows, learning the difference too late for drama. Many scholars argue this liturgy balanced famine anxiety with proof. Evidence suggests the heart rite was a ledger entry, not a storm. Hedge keeps reason close enough to breathe. Name the body, the priest says, because words must be clean. Name it within rules. He gives the guard a chance to hear boundaries and stand inside them. I point to my own chest and keep the pulse calm. The law asks for fuel, I say. It does not ask for panic. The guard moves to block me, eager to claim pity. Heroics do not harvest, he says. Harvest follows obedience. Then obey the sun, I tell him. Obey the marks we placed. We all look again at the blue line cooling on stone. The priest nods once and changes the plan without breaking it. We will sever a smaller life, he says, then bind a living one to duty. He turns to the cenote and signals with 2 fingers. A runner brings a basket wrapped in woven reed. Inside, a bird with a dusk-red throat breathes fast. The guard scoffs, sensing loss. A bird is not a man, he says. Nor is vanity a law, I answer. We kneel together, 3 pairs of hands in one count. The bird stills when the drum settles. Its heartbeat speaks in my palm like a small hammer. Hold, the priest says, eyes on my breath. I hold and place the knife where craft says place it. The edge obeys. The bird is now only colour and lesson. We tip the small heart toward the cenote mouth. Water takes it with no flourish. It disappears in green the way rain disappears in soil. Silence is not emptiness. It is language. I set the knife down so its weight does not argue. The guard watches and finds nothing he can call a parade. Now the second bond, the priest says. Not death, duration. He turns to the crowd and lets the word sit. We carry the blue line back to the Temple of Kukulcán. At Chichén Itzá, the sun draws its own scripture. We will follow its lines until evening forgives. A cord appears, clean and salted. We tie wrists in a pattern that trains rather than bites. 4 breaths in, 4 held, 4 out, 4 released. Name your hour, I tell the guard. He hesitates, then says, dusk. Then keep dusk, I answer, and he nods once. We stand on the 5th stair where wind edits heat. Witness takes the form of quiet. Quiet keeps work honest. We mark ribs and hips with blue lime like noon. Paint maps strain so pride cannot roam. Discipline sets hands where shame would try to live. The priest speaks for the square without raising his voice. The calendar accepts the lesser life as signal, he says. It accepts the bound life as promise. We walk the stair in short circuits. Feet write chalk on stone, breath writes rhythm on ribs. The guard keeps pace because he now owns a time. Faster, he tries once, reflex more than thought. No, I say, and he hears the word land. He keeps the count he chose. Reversal. He becomes the example. He breathes where he once demanded bleeding. The crowd watches and learns the edge between rule and appetite. We turn east when the light thins. A runner brings salt in a small clay bowl. We move the work to another memory that still teaches. At Waksaktun, the stare wears white as if insisting on clarity. We scatter salt along the risers like a map of restraint. Each grain insists on dryness. Each grain holds a promise. The guard presses 2 fingers to his own wrist. He reads his pulse as if it were a text. He is surprised by how legible it is. "Speak to them," the priest says. He means the square that waited for thunder. They will receive grammar instead. "We narrowed choices," I say. "We refused waste. We fed the calendar without feeding hunger." A woman near the market gate nods once. She studies the blue lines and the salt. Her house will keep these shapes because they work. The conch pulls a long line across the plaza. It catches on the cenote wind and becomes a beam. We stand under it and let it carry the hour. "Unbind," the priest says, voice measured. We untie the wrists without drama. Rope leaves no mark that pride can use later. The guard lifts his hands and looks at the palms. They are ordinary. Ordinary is the aim of good law. "Outcome," I say, making the word public. The rite held. The field kept its hands. He looks at the cenote as if it might answer. It answers with breath made of cold stone. Breath is an old teacher here. We carry the knife back to cloth without shaking it. It is a tool with a history, not a story with teeth. The chipped rim gleams like a lesson that remembers itself. Children copy our steps on the lower stair. They count in low voices and do not argue with numbers. Numbers are merciful when heat is not. We walk once more along the sack bay to close the circuit. Chalk stains heels. Ash cools in long threads. Witness becomes memory. Memory becomes habit. By night, the ledger will hold today's exchange with clean words. By dawn, the market will smell of maize and smoke. By planting the week, will proceed without borrowing fear. I face the guard so he can measure what changed. He exhales and keeps his shoulders where they belong. He has learned how to stand inside a rule. We leave salt on the Waksaktun steps for moonlight to read. We leave blue on the ribs until the wind forgets it. We leave nothing hungry. The priest lowers his hand. The drums choose a walking pace. No one cheers. The square aligns. Alignment is the sound of grain choosing our side. We finish at the cenote rim where air is cleanest. Water below keeps its counsel and keeps our promise. The city will eat because the hour refused a cheaper triumph. Choices remaining tightened to 2, which is plenty for a night like this. Discipline stays. Appetite leaves without ceremony. We hold the hinge. The door does not fail. Night gathers along Plaza Norte. The drums thin to bone and breath becomes the only loud thing I will allow. Captives, not corpses, the high priest says. Bring them breathing. Bring them counted. I nod once and fix the ribs to a clean engine. The guard studies my face as if speed could be read there. He wants a chase that eats itself. We move along the sack bay where the chalk remembers feet. Runners darken their forearms with blue lime. The boy checks the coil that rides at his hip. Hold to pairs, I tell them. 2 hands, 1 rope. Wind from the Cenote Sagrado crosses the stones and steadies the tongue. Copal rises behind us and stays low, as if not to alert the road. We pass the Tzompantli and do not take its memory with us. At the far mouth of the sack bay we strike. The ambush is a net, not a shout. The city needs bodies that know how to breathe tomorrow. A sentry sees our shadow and opens his mouth. The guard lunges forward, taste for noise returning. "No," I say, and the hand on his shoulder means work. We count. 1 step into the dust. 2 hands on the wrist. 3 turns of rope. The man falls safely and breathes under the knot. The boy secures ankles with a practiced neatness. We step aside so the road can learn what restraint looks like. "Faster," the guard whispers. "Gather more." He wants a pile. "Intact," I answer. "Value is breath." Subtext: pride cannot be carried home. Sensory jolt: a spark tears the dark to our east. Another answers on the ridge like a second mean star. The air smells of pitch and damp palm. We hear a thin horn from beyond the could-be trees. The note is not ours. The note is a hook. Reversal. The net tightens around the hunters. Figures unpeel from the sack bay edges with the quiet of dry fish. They are not here to die. I see the guard reach for a story that will make him tall. He opens his mouth to order a brave mistake. I cut the word before it grows legs. Square the pairs, I say. Back to back. Breathe low. He bristles and obeys. Rope loops click against bone and chalk. We form a small city the size of 6 bodies. Stone shivers under sandals. Copal from far behind smells like a promise we can still keep. The cenote's wind cannot reach us here. The first enemy hits the boy's shoulder with a stick of heavy wood. He stumbles and keeps the coil. I hear the priest's voice inside my ribs. Count, I tell the boy. 1, he says through teeth. He straightens and tightens the knot he had started. We catch 2 in the first swing of rope. They fall like sacks that prefer not to split. We leave them able to speak. The guard finds a man and binds him too hard. Ease, I say, and pull the knot half a finger. Pain is waste when the calendar asks for fuel. He glares and tests my tone. Who commands, he says, trying to salt the hour. I do, I answer, and the net reforms around my voice. Power flip. He hears it because the road hears it. We move to the left and avoid a cluster of stones. Stones trip pride first. A horn cries again. Flame blooms from a distant tower and hangs. The bloom repeats downrange like beads on string. Reveal. A watchpost at Calakmul is awake and sending fire. They have our number. They prefer to keep us busy, not dead. North edge, I tell the pairs. Hug the Ballcourt wall. Echo is our friend now. We slide along the masonry where sound splits and loses names. Shadows from vendor stalls sketch gates we can slip through. The boy breathes in 4s and the rope answers with good manners. We bring 3 captives into the shadow and park them, knees bent, spine upright, breath visible. The guard looks toward the market path and hears courage in his blood. Take the centre, he says. Let them see we are not afraid. Let them see we are precise, I answer. Centre wastes us. He recalculates. Survival likes arithmetic. The horn falls silent and we hear feet shift. The enemy has learned that we prefer live men to stories. They will test patience, not strength. Soft time gathers above the plaza roofline. Moonrise feels close enough to taste. The Temple of Kukulcán is a black edge against a slow sky. Memory reaches farther than feet. Tikal rises in that memory like a pillar that does not bend. Its pyramid sits on the earth as if stitching 2 clocks together. We hold to that idea, a spine we can borrow at a distance. Axis, not swirl, I say to the guard. He looks at me as if the word might bite. Anchor to the stair, I add. We move the line there. He nods, and the pairs turn with small economy. We pass the Tzompantli again. Skulls remember names no one says aloud. Breath stays low, so memory does not tilt the hour. The enemy probes the gap between stalls. We deny the gap by standing inside it. A man faints and finds rope instead of a throat. He spits, expecting cruelty that never arrives. Who keeps the law, he says, eyes bright with shame. The law keeps you breathing, I answer, and move him to the wall. The guard watches my hands like a student trying not to be caught. This is not war, he mutters. This is counting. This is the war that feeds cities, I say. War for live bodies. War for mornings. He swallows and keeps the pace. He ties a knot he learned yesterday and checks it twice. His face loses theatre and gains work. Sensory jolt. A slingstone cracks against the Ballcourt corner. Dust flares into the nose and refuses to leave. Eyes water, then clear. We draw the line to the stairs' first rise. Drums in the plaza hear our shape and change pattern. The conch throws a beam we can walk under. The enemy shows 6 men and then hides 5. They want us to chase the 6th. We let him run. Reversal. Our pairs absorb, not pursue. We walk backward up 1 step and narrow the mouth. The 6th looks big and becomes a hand with nothing to hold. Shift left, I tell the pairs. Give the boy room. He threads a rope around a wrist with clean speed. The guard catches a shoulder with his palm and softens. He has learned where force ruins value. He says nothing. That is growth. We pen 4 men against the stair and make a small order. Knees down, hands safe, breath counted. The horn sounds again from the east. Flame lifts and hangs near Kalakmul like a second moon. They will not risk a charge now. They prefer signals. We count our captives with gloved care. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move, the priest calls from the plaza edge. Bring them whole. Do not tax the dawn. We move as a short animal with many legs. Left pair leads, right pair shields, middle pair carries rope. The city makes space because the count shows it how. A stone skips and kisses my forearm. Skin warms and then forgets. Pain is allowed, panic is not. At the sack bay mouth we pause a breath to change grips. The guard looks to me without irony. Order, he says, and I give him a small nod. We take the path that skirts the vendor stalls. A child watches with the serious eyes saved for storms. He follows the rope with his gaze until it makes sense. Reveal. The rope is not a weapon tonight. It is a bridge that keeps tomorrow usable. We do not dress it as anything else. We reach the plaza heart where Copal fattens the air. Smoke softens edges so the crowd does not sharpen. We hold positions that protect lungs. Artifact, the priest says, voice plain. I lift the coil so the square sees the fibers. Truth label, henequen binding rope. The crowd understands weight and intent. It understands knots that hold firm and release clean. That understanding moves across faces like quiet weather. Hands down, I tell the captives. Breathe the count we breathe. They do because bodies prefer rhythm to panic. The guard stands at my shoulder and does not chase applause. He checks the knots without tugging them proud. He keeps his voice inside his chest. We begin the walk to the altar stairs. The conch marks each pace with a line of sound. The drums keep time near the Tzompantli, so fear has a metronome. At the first riser, a slingstone whistles past my ear. I do not change stride. Strides teach crowds what belongs. 2 men test the rope by leaning opposite directions. It pulls them back into the lesson. They look surprised, then relieved. Do not humiliate them, the priest says. He means the crowd. He means us. We hold dignity by holding silence. We hold order by holding breath. We hold each other by holding the count. Minor beat, memory climbs the spine. Tikal's high pyramid stands in the mind like a plumb line. It steadies wrists when noise tries to shake them. We take the second riser and turn outward. The square quiets as if listening for seed to fall. Seed will fall if we keep this shape. Outcome, I say to no one, and to everyone. Captives whole, breath whole. The guard hears the word whole and keeps it. He keeps it the way a man keeps a tool. He will use it again. We deliver the 4 to a row of elders who know knots. Their hands are weathered and exact. They inherit what we brought and conserve it. A man in the crowd spits a small insult. It falls short. We do not turn. Choices remaining narrow to one, and it is the correct one. We can finish this hour without waste. We can carry it into morning. The horn far east dies. Flame at Calakmul shrinks and darkens. Signals concede to schedules. We release our pairs and stand in one line. Breath levels. Rope cools. The priest nods once. Hold the method at moonrise, he says. We will, I answer, and the answer fits. We walk the sack bay back to the cenote rim. Wind returns with its clean metal. Water below edits moonlight into coins again. The boy touches the henequen with a finger. He checks for fray and finds none. Craft survived pressure. I taste resin and dust and a small thread of iron. The body is tired in the way tools are tired. Tools sleep and wake ready. We stand until the drums thin to a walking beat. The guard looks at the Tzompantli and then away. He has learned where to put his eyes. Soft cliff to carry us forward. The city holds the count. We hold the rope that holds the city. Night will test it. Morning will need it. Before moonset, the plaza breathes as one. The city waits for a choice it can live with. At Bonampak, the mural remembers us. Witnesses kneel. A ruler bleeds under rules. Musicians fix time with raised shells. The high priest tips his torch toward that painted hour. Hold the law, he says. Do not hold the theatre. Wind from the Cenote Sagrado threads the ribs. Copal rides it. Sweet bark, clean metal, an old hive of smoke. The Temple of Kukulcán stands black and exact. The sack bay is a pale vein between. The guard steps into the open like a blade looking for light. End it with proof, he says. Name the body. I breathe until the count locks the hands. No waste, I answer. Proof without famine. He shows teeth meant for crowds rather than grain. You finally fear the square, he says. Subtext. He is asking me to fear him. Face me, I tell him, voice kept low for work. We measure this here. He comes close enough to smell resin and night water. Dialogue burst. Choose, he says. I choose order, I say. He laughs like dry gourds rolling. We move along Plaza Norte, past the folded vendor mats. Runners carry blue lime and a thin reed. The boy keeps the coil and keeps his breath where we taught him. At the cenote rim, the priest sets a clay bowl on stone. Inside, salt and ash sit like two kinds of winter. He looks at me, not at the guard. Name the major event, he says evenly. The city needs its hinge. I nod toward the painted truth we carry in our heads. Bonampak still says the same thing, I answer. Power bleeds under rules. Witness is work. I point at the stair so our hour can answer back in stone. Reversal. I refuse the simple path the guard offers, the loud cut, the easy panic. I ask for marks first, not blood. The square adjusts its lungs. We chalk a line across the sack bay where the shadow falls. We chalk another at the cenote lip where breath steadies. We chalk a third on the first riser to remind patience where to stand. Stall, the guard mutters. Schedule, I correct. Words change temperature when they pay rent. The priest lifts a shell and blows a low note. It slides along stone, splits at the Ballcourt, returns thinner. Children fall quiet because sound can teach. Bring the offering, the guard calls loud for applause. A runner arrives with a wrapped bundle. He holds it like work, not like a story. We do not untie it yet. We walk the marks once so the city can memorize the path. Feet learn truths that mouths forget. Sensory jolt. The cenote exhales cold hard enough to sweeten the teeth. Copal thickens, torchlight shakes and then steadies. Water below lays out small coins of moonlight and keeps them for us. The guard leans to speak near my ear. Purity is pain, he says. Purity is precision, I answer. Power flip. He pulls back a half thumb. The crowd reads that distance. Power moves from volume to method without telling him first. He feels smaller and stands straighter. We unwrap the bundle. Inside is a bowl of maize paste and a living quail, dusk red at the throat. 2 tasks, 1 law. Your decision, the priest says, and does not rescue me. The city waits. Grain waits longer. I set the bowl aside and cradle the bird. Not a chest tonight, I say to the square, a signal, then a binding. We will pay the calendar without bankrupting the field. Reveal, at the Cenote Sagrado, the offering changes. The law bends but does not break. The guard opens his mouth for protest. The priest raises 2 fingers. The crowd hears work, not panic. We kneel where the chalk meets the rim. The boy steadies the lamp so shadow does not lie. The priest's hand hovers, not command, calibration. Hold breath on 4, I tell the boy. He counts as I set the knife where craft says place it. The quail stills. The throat opens like a seam in cloth. The heart is small and exact. The priest tips it toward the cenote mouth. Water accepts it. Nothing argues. Silence does the rest. We set the knife down and breathe together. The city didn't break when we spared a chest. The law did not soften. It focused. Second act, the priest says. Bind, promise, endure. He means a living bond in place of death. We cross to the stair. The sack bay gleams lightly where chalk met damp. The boy brings a cleaned cord, salted against sweat. We tie wrists with room for blood to live where we need it tomorrow. Faster, the guard tries one last time, speaking his reflex. No, I say, and he hears the word land the way tools land on wood. He keeps our pace without liking it. We mark ribs with blue lime for strain maps. We mark hips where stubbornness stores itself. Paint is honest. It keeps pride where it belongs. Count with them, I tell the guard. He hesitates. Then he does. The square watches a man learn to be useful. We climb 3 steps and turn outward. Breath travels through the line like water finding its level. Men we captured breathe it too, because breath prefers order to shame. Minor beat. Cenote Sagrado receives a lesser life and accepts the grammar of restraint. Minor beat. Uxmal's habit returns with a change. Fire shows a recut symbol on a carried tablet, the old curve made clean. Torchlight makes the lines speak, plain, not proud. We hold until the conch thins and the drums walk. The priest faces the mural that is not here and bows to the work it taught. He turns back to us and nods once. Outcome, he says. Say it so the ledger hears. I say it. We kept the hinge. We kept the hands that plant. We refused appetite and stayed inside the law. The guard lowers his head. Not defeat, alignment. He adjusts his belt and checks the knots without pride. The boy looks at me, waiting to be told he did well. I do not waste the word. Keep the count, I tell him. He smiles with his ribs, not his mouth. It is enough. We carry an object to the stair's middle landing. Its weight is history, its edge is quiet. We wash it in cenote water. We oil it so it will not rot. Truth label, cleaned stingray spine sealed in a glass box. Visible payoff. The city sees a tool that drew blood now held like a promise. It sits where children can look and not be wounded by looking. The box shines without bragging. Secondary payoff. The boy from the coil steps forward. The priest touches his shoulder. Keeper of the count, the old man says. The boy bows to work, not to applause. His hands do not shake. We turn once more to the plaza. Smoke hangs in ribbons. The market wall holds the last of the night. Women lift bowls, men set down poles, the city leans toward morning. Dialogue burst. Call it mercy, the guard says, testing the new air. Call it discipline, I answer. He nods, and in that nod a city survives. Sensory jolt. Wind knifes across the rim and salts the lips. It tastes like limestone, like coins, like a door newly oiled. The conch answers with a low beam we can walk under. Reversal. The crowd does not cheer, it arranges itself. Arrangement is louder than noise when harvest is close. Noise has nowhere to sit. We step down and lay the cord on cloth. The priest lifts the reed and writes without ceremony. 3 lines, no poetry, a map for tomorrow. Overlay, he murmurs, glancing at the shadows. Time rides place, place rides habit. We will mark 5 checkpoints before the sun owns the sky. I face the stair where the box rests. It does not apologize for its teeth. It simply promises they will serve schedules, not appetites. Speak, the priest says, meaning the soft end of things. Not a sermon, a closure. I keep it short and exact. Recap. We change the offering without surrender. Recap. We bound a living hour to duty and kept hands for seed. Reflect. Law is a tool. It fails when worshipped and lives when used. Visible payoff stands in glass where eyes can learn safely. Secondary payoff stands in a boy whose count will outlast ours. If this held you, breathe once and carry the count.